Good evening, my brothers and sisters. Let me welcome you to this evening's presentation of Mango Tree Dialogues. This is our Thursday edition in which we discuss matters pertaining to the diaspora, the Caribbean diaspora, with specific reference to Jamaica. So let me welcome you and ask you to, as you listen to the broadcast, to like the broadcast. I'm sure you will. And I do my best to see that that happens. But I would just like to ask you to, on a light moment, just to mention the whole matter of hydration, because we are entering into cooler months. The summer has been very devastating, in terms of the heat. And now, we're into September, going into the fall. So we're going into cooler months. And at that time, people are forced to drink water and to keep their bodies, fluid in their bodies in the summer. In a way, they have no choice because we get thirsty so easily. But there's a tendency to be a bit more relaxed as we go towards the cooler months. And that is why I'm urging that we need to be very vigilant in terms of drinking enough fluids to keep our bodies hydrated just the same way. It is very important. And especially if you have children, to take care of the kids. They don't often know that they ought to be hydrated, and the parents have to look out for them in a very special way. That's one. And very quickly, the whole matter of the COVID epidemic. It is still causing problems. It's not as virulent or devastating as it was in the past, but a lot of people are still getting sick. And if you are what the doctors call immunocompromised, which means that your immune system has been weakened, because of some illnesses, like if you had cancer or any such illness that has weakened your body system, then you can have a more negative episode with COVID than with probably a more healthy person. But the bottom line is you don't really want to get that thing into your system, because it can be very uncomfortable, to put it mildly. All right, so just those two things, for a lighter moment as we move into the broadcast. All right, what are the things that are on my mind this evening? There are two things that I would like to share some thoughts on, make some commentary on. And that is what I call the Haitian Dilemma. The dilemma that is facing Haiti, that has faced Haiti for far too long. And then there's a question of the by-elections in Jamaica. I mentioned those last Thursday, but I want to come back to the matter, because there is a sense in which, there's a kind of political expediency that politicians tend to resort to. And morality, this kind of political expediency tends to undermine any kind of moral sense about what politicians do. And it is in that light that I would want to return to this and to share some thoughts on that. All right, so buckle up then and let's get into Haiti. There are about three aspects to this dilemma that I would want to speak to this evening. And the first has to do with the way in which the Haitian community in America, especially in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, in this political season, the US presidential elections, and the way in which one party has been, I would say, abusing its privilege, because it's a privilege when you commend yourself to people to vote for you, to elect you to an office. As I said last time, to employ you. It is a privilege to be able to go out there and say to people, hey, here I am, send me. and to know the extent to which that particular matter of the Haitian people is being used as a pawn in the Republican Party's desire to get power. So that's one aspect. There's a second aspect to this that I'd like to speak to, and that it's a recent development. There is a multinational force that has once again been organized and sent to Haiti to stabilize the country because of the political, not so much the political, but the gang violence that is tearing the whole country apart. And thirdly, I just want to make a quick reference to the whole matter of the injustice, the historical injustice that has been meted out to the Haitian people. So the first thing then is a three-part, reference to this dilemma. And so the first part of it then has to do with the way in which Haitian immigrants have been stigmatized, stereotyped, and are being used right now as a pawn in the chess game of the Republican Party. And yes, the Republican Party, because Donald Trump, who has been the main purveyor of this idea of what is the purport to be happening with this Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio, is the lead candidate for the Republican Party. He has taken over that party. Those who have followed the Republican Party over the past, I would say 20 years, could tell you that they saw this coming. I wrote a whole book on this, published in 2014, Beyond Petulance, Republican Party politics and the future of America. And in that particular book, I talked about the way in which the soul of the Republican Party is being hollowed, being torn apart. And I was referring to the Bush elections and the Bush governance and what came after that, the Iraq situation and all that. And just to see the extent to which that party has been, and I'm not going to say hijacked. The word keeps coming to my mind, but I don't want to say hijacked. That is to let off too many people who sat by and allowed the party of Lincoln, the party of their hero Reagan, to be taken over by what I call a MAGA crust of authoritarians who want to set this country back, not 50 years, not even 100 years. And regrettably, the Haitian population, at least a segment of it in this country, is now being used as a pawn in their desire to get power. Simply put. So what happened is that there were social media postings that, and I even hate to repeat it, but just for the context and the facts. You don't want to give currency to this sort of thing at all. But just for the facts, because, interestingly, there are just some people might not have even heard of it. But the fact that the GOP candidate sees no reason to regret using it in the last presidential debate and doubling down today in another public forum in which he was speaking, doubling down on it, shows that it is something that we really need to look at. It is not anything that one can laugh about. I see some people snicker and laugh whenever they hear it about, the Haitian community in Springfield. There are people there who are eating people's pets. Don't want to say anything further about, that, but just to give you the context. And the authorities in Springfield certainly the governor of Ohio, Mr. DeWine, they have come out categorically and said they don't know of anything like that. They have fact checked it. They have checked it out, the local authorities, and there is no instance that they can find of anything like that happening. And yet, there is no word from the Republican Party to even back up and say, hey, we did something wrong. That is not so. We got the information wrong. And we are sorry. Well, I know and you know that the word sorry is not a word that is in the GOP presidential nominee and contender for the presidency of the United States in November 2024. That the word sorry is not in his vocabulary. He doesn't regret. He's not a man given to regret for anything. And that is why he can still continue to double down on it. And not even recognizing how negative it is for his campaign. He doesn't even have the sense, the curiosity to even have a notion that what he's saying is impacting his campaign in a very negative way, and that the more he pushes it, the more he turns people off. Because let us be frank about it. In Springfield, there was an accommodation of Haitian immigrants who had concentrated there because there were jobs. That is the fact. To be found, and they integrated themselves in the community and were working very hard until some, spurious persons, posted this social media post that caused all this brouhaha. They had integrated themselves in the community. I heard one of the commissioners in the area talking laudably about, what the contributions they were making to the community. And now the people are fearful because with this kind of negative thing against them, this horrible, negative, stain that the Republican Party is seeking to put on their community. They're fearful. And in this time of political division, people are understandably fearful when such things happen. And we in the Caribbean community have to lend our voices, and that's one of the reasons I'm talking to it this evening, because we need to lend our voices against this kind of diabolic thing coming from the Republican Party. And yes, it is the Republican Party. You allowed Trump to take it over and to recharacterize it, rechristen it MAGA. It is in your hands. You have foisted Trump on the American people, and you own every single negative thing. From my pause, I was going to say something else, but it might not have been too good for airplay. Temper yourself, Rasta. But you, the Republican Party, sat back and allowed this to happen. A lot of you are now jumping ship. Today was Alberto Gonzalez. He was the latest. He was the former Attorney General under Bush. Cheney has come over. His daughter came over earlier. There are many high-ranking Republicans who are now jumping ship. But yes, they're doing the right thing now to jump ship. And I think their hearts are in the right place in terms of their concern for the democratic future of this country, of the US. I think their hearts are in the right place, and I'm not going to take that away from them. But when they saw this thing coming and people were telling them about the dangers that Trump posed to the democracy, many refused not to see it, or if they saw it, they didn't want to acknowledge it, either out of fear or out of some kind of thinking that by some kind of divine intervention, things could change. No, things don't change like that. And so I just want to say to the Caribbean community, let us not abandon our Haitian brothers and sisters in this time. Let us give whatever support we can, and let our voices be heard against this nasty attack upon their community. They're hardworking people. Immigrants in this country are among the hardest. Well, we are an immigrant population. It is what has made America great. When other countries are turning away people or are not absorbing people as America does, they suffer because they're not getting the best minds in the world to come to their country like America has. And that is the problem with immigration, that people, don't recognize that what has really made America great is that it has had this very strong history over the years of absorbing the best minds from around the world into this country. That is something we must cherish. And any party, any political party that inveighs against immigrants is not worthy of your vote. So that's the first aspect of the problems that the Haitian community faces in the Caribbean diaspora. And I characterize it as a Caribbean problem. It's not just Haiti's problem. It is our problem as well when they're attacked like that. And we must stand up and be counted. All right, so the second aspect of it then is that a multinational force has been deployed to Haiti to help stabilize that country in the face of gang violence that has torn the country apart. Right now in the capital, Port-au-Prince, if I call that right, the gangs still control a very large section of the capital. So in 2023, the United Nations Security Council came up with in discussion with Caribbean leaders and African leaders, that they are going to send a multinational police force down there to help to stabilize, to deal with the gangs, bring some stability to the country, and then eventually hold elections. Jamaica, yes, little Jamaica has sent 24. 4 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the police force, and 20 soldiers. And they are going to more deal with matters of logistics and advice and so on. They're not going to be necessarily engaging the gangsters in any open warfare, but soldiers are soldiers. If you're attacked, you're going to defend yourself. I'm sure they didn't go down there with a couple pieces of sticks in their hands. The larger force support is from Kenya. I think over 400 have been deployed. Is this number sufficient? I would like to think that it is not going to be sufficient. And other Caribbean countries, but the contingent is not that big like in the past. when troops, United Nations peacekeeping forces were sent down there. And we've not had the kind of stability that one would have wanted. And I don't want to throw any cold water on this latest initiative, but I have my doubts because we've been this way before. There are many times when forces have been deployed down there, and America's again history in Haiti has not been that stellar. It's a close neighbor. And so over the years, you've had the United States intervening in the affairs of Haiti. When Haiti gained independence in 1804, after the Haitian Revolution, which was inspired by the French Revolution, interestingly, because that Haiti was a French colony under, between 1700s, in the 1700s. And the Haitian Revolution, which took place in 1791, between 1791 to 1804, led to the first time in the Americas where a Black nation was able to throw off the shackles of slavery and colonialism and declare itself a free nation, no longer a colony of France. Those are the facts. And since that time, America has put its foot in trying to influence economically and politically. As a matter of fact, when Haiti was declared independence under the Haitian revolutionary leaders, Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines, who were the leaders of the revolution, in 1804, it was not until 1862, almost 60 years after, before America acknowledged Haiti as an independent nation. So think about that. And you know why? You know the main reason why they did not recognize the independence of Haiti? Because they thought that if they did that, it would be a way of probably inducing slaves in America, in the southern states, to probably rise up too and throw off the shackles as the Haitians had done. They didn't want it to appear as a kind of inspiration to them to do that, because they wanted to maintain their system of slavery. And since that time, America has occupied Haiti at different times. And they have tried to influence the social, political, and economic life of Haiti over the years. Between 1915 and 1934, they virtually had full control of the country. In 1994, under Clinton, troops were again deployed to Haiti to prop up Aristide. You remember that? And then again in 2004. So all I'm saying here, friends, is that Haiti has suffered at the hands of these metropolitan powers. Suffered unjustly, which is the third part of my comment here. The injustice that has been meted out to Haiti over the years. and to which the world, by and large, has turned a blind eye. It really started with the French, because when Haiti declared independence in 1804, the French imposed a massive uh, indemnity payment program on them to compensate for the loss to the slave owners. Imagine that. It has been said that perhaps in today's money, it started off at a certain figure, then it fell. But in terms of today's money, it could have been about $560 million US dollars that Haiti has had to pay out over the years to France in indemnity payment, reparations in a way, for to compensate slave owners. It should have been the other way. It has been indicated and estimated that if that amount of money that Haiti had spent or giving to France, forced to give them, if that was invested in the Haitian economy, it could have been about $115 billion today worth of investment that could have emanated from all of that. And so it would seem to me that France should be ashamed of itself. Today, France should be ashamed of itself. And I would say to a lesser extent America, because America has gone in there to try to stabilize situations. But taking this amount of money from a poor country like that, you're going to further impoverish the country. And you do it out of spite. You do it because they licked your hide and chased you away out of vengeance. That's how I see it. And I think I don't know if the full money has been paid up, but I think up till lately, our monies were still being paid. What an injustice. And that is what has made Haiti poor, part of the problem. Too many of the metropolitan countries that have put their feet inside Haiti and put their boots on the necks of Haitians, creating divisions, social divisions that give rise to negative political forces like the Tonton Macoutes inside that country, which have now devolved into gangs controlling the country. It all stemmed from all those history because they weren't able to put in the economy the monies that came from their own sweat and labor. A metropolitan power had to be paid first. And if you're not ashamed of that, France, you should give the people back their money. But are you going to do that? The generation of French people today, looking back, talking about liberty, equality, and fraternity, inspiring revolutionary situations. You should look back today and see what has been done by your forefathers and correct it. It is a shame and a blot on the world's body politic, the way in which metropolitan powers have used Haiti as a pawn in their political and economic chess game over the years. Then they come and talk morality. They come and hold up their hands as if their hands are clean. Haiti is where it's at today because of your actions. US and France especially. And Haitians are among the brightest, and most hardworking people you can come across. Given a chance, like most Caribbean people, given a chance, they can make their own way in the world. They're not looking for handouts. The poor people have had to scrounge to survive because of external forces that have robbed them of their dignity. And there's no shame. That is why Trump can say what he's saying about them and double down that they're eating pets. And that is why he shows no regret. He's not capable of showing regret anyway for anything. Because they don't respect the Haitian people. I have a very high regard for them as a Caribbean man myself. As a neighbor, one of the closest neighbors to Haiti. There are people, when they're fleeing, they come to Jamaica. And there's a little thing sometimes when they come there, they're not treated with the kind of dignity that they should be treated with. There have been 2 instances recently where Haitians landed and they were just herded and sent back in contravention of certain conventions to take care of people, and if they're refugees, to see how you can accommodate them in a different way. We have tended to look down on the Haitian people too. Caribbean people. I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it. It's plain. We must stop it and give them the respect that they're due. All right, so we'll see where that goes. We'll see what the multinational force does this time. This is not their first rodeo. I hear the United Nations talking, and there are some people suggesting that they should deploy a United Nations security force again down there. The last time they were down there, diseases that were brought by some of these soldiers caused problems in the population. Many women complained about being raped. So don't think it is a situation that is a slam dunk. You send them down there and they're going to behave decently. The Haitian people have had reason to complain about how the multinational forces, when they get there, how they behave. So we'll watch this present one and see how it emerges. But ultimately, the Haitian people have to, the 8 million and counting of them, they have to take care of their own destiny. It's about them and their own future. Not America's, not France's, not Kenya's, not Jamaica's. And all we can do is to help them the best way we can to become the great nation that they're capable of. Genuinely help them. Not help with a view to exploit or to use them and manipulate them, but genuinely give them a leg up. They have suffered too much, and it's time that this stops. All right. To the other matter of the Jamaican by-elections now. And last week I mentioned that, very briefly when I was discussing Dr. Nigel Clark's impending departure to take up the post as one of the 4 managing directors of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, better known. And the indication is that, of course, his departure will create another vacancy in his constituency. But there was a development not long after that where the Member of Parliament for Northeast St. Anne, Miss Marsha Smith, she resigned. And the Prime Minister moved with unaccustomed speed. I mean, put it that way. to hold a by-election. Nomination was yesterday, and the by-election will take place, the election will take place by the end of the month. 3 candidates emerged, 1 independent, 1 for the United Party, so United Independent Party, and 1 independent person and the Jamaica Labour Party candidate, Mr. Matthew Samuda. They emerged as the contenders, and they've all been duly nominated, and they're now on the hustings, seeking to influence votes. What is of concern to me is that there is already, prior to the Miss Smith going and the seat becoming vacant, and the quickness, the speed, the alacrity at which the Prime Minister sprinted to hold this election. There are 3 elections, 2 parish council elections, because 2 divisions that are vacant, and there is a parliamentary election for Trelawney Southern, where the former Speaker of the House, Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert, was the Member of Parliament. That seat has been vacant for almost a year, which means that the people of Trelawney Southern have been without any representation in Parliament for almost a year. And so one has to ask the question, why is it that the Prime Minister did not fill that seat and those other and the councillor seats? Why now, as this one has come up, you move with this kind of speed to get this done? And then the Prime Minister has been heard on more than one occasion to say he's got to get those filled very quickly, and he's giving a promise that and it could be anytime soon. Why wasn't it soon after Mrs. Philibert, Dalrymple Philibert left almost a year ago? And the only conclusion that I can draw, because it is important for us to know that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Constitution gives him awesome powers to call elections at any time. It is the Westminster system that even Britain itself has moved away from. You know, they have a fixed date for elections now. But we still retain that, where the Prime Minister is the only person who can call elections. The Constitution gives him that right. But that can be corrected. The Representation of People's Act, ROPA, in short, can be amended to have fixed dates for elections, if that is what the people want. It can be amended to say, listen, if there is a vacancy in any constituency, then within a 3-month period, it must be filled. And don't give the Prime Minister the kind of leverage that he has to call at his own whim and fancy. As is happening now, you're talking about the democratic process of the country, I find it very interesting that there are like members of the People's National Party, for example, they are not contesting this election because they're saying that the money could be better spent, to alleviate, the suffering of people after the Beryl hurricane. And they're saying that it could have been very well better spent. But, spare me, the kind of crocodile tears, because they know, and they too have used this particular privilege of calling elections to their own political advantage. Both parties, since independence in 1962, have used this particular power that the Prime Minister has to use to call elections in tandem with the political advantage that it brings to them. So when you come and you're crying and trying to climb the high moral ground when there's no ground for you to climb because you've done it in the past. And you can rest assured that if it is the PNP that had the opportunity to call this election and to decide, would they be acting any differently? Because they're shown in the past, in past PNP administrations, when elections like these should be called, but they have not moved to call them. People have languished for months, without representation in Parliament. I remember some discussion that was criticism that was made of the Patterson administration because of a particular seat that was not called. For the longest while, they all do it. So now that you come and tell me that, you could have used the money for other things and you're not contesting because of that. Nonsense. Nonsense. The general election is near. By September 2025, it has to be called. The general election. And my own feeling is that they don't want to be tested in an election now. And I wouldn't kill them on that. Why put yourself out there probably just about 6 months, 7 months from the election and spend up all that money and get involved? But for God's sake, don't come and try to use a more specious way to explain it, because that will not fly, and it should not fly. The more important thing is that you should argue that there be the constitutional reform that takes that awesome power away from the prime minister and entrench it in the constitution, fix dates for elections, that they can play around with it, like Britain has done. Fixed dates. That's a better way to go. But I come back to the curiosity that the prime minister would want to call it at this time. And whatever is on his agenda, whatever is his intention, whatever is the reason that he thinks he should call it and not call the others, and no talking about calling the others, which he should have done a long time ago. Something does not smell right. There is no way you cannot see the disjunction between political expediency, whatever that political expedience is. He's not going to come out and tell you what it is. He's not that fool. He's that foolish to do that. But you cannot help but see the disjunction between political expedience and the morality of why you ought to have people represented as soon as you can in the parliament of their land, of the land. That's a big problem, Quite apart from the thing that it should be entrenched, and it's a matter of constitutional reform. What has to be concerned about the morality of allowing people to go without representation. And this is where I fault the prime minister. There's no justification. And the speeches that he has been making with regard to a kind of revelation now, a kind of epiphany that has broken out in his mind, that no, we're going to get these elections done, we're going to call them soon and this and that. You should have thought about that if you were hoping to walk on the high moral ground. These elections should have been concluded a long time ago. So what is it now that all of a sudden you call this one in Northeast Center, and then you're going to now move with speed, and I want to see that speed. I really would want to see that speed with which you're going to move to conclude these other elections. But we'll see. We'll wait and see. It is clear to me that Mr. Samuda, the JLP representative, will come through because he has a dominant position. It has been a JLP constituency under the great Shahini Robinson, held that seat, took it from the PNP and has held it, and the JLP and has continued to have influence in that constituency. So I don't see him, I don't see the independent person nor the UIP person overcoming him. I don't see it. It will not happen. I can predict. So he'll get in there. And he has been a good minister of government, you know. He speaks very eloquently about the concerns of people that he's now the Minister of Water and Climate Change and the Environment under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Employment, I think. And he has done a good job. They've been doing quite a bit in terms of water. And there are a number of things that are in the pipeline, if you pardon the pun, to flow in many areas. And the Prime Minister has indicated that if he wins, he'll continue to do that, because those are the kind of works that but who knows? It has been suggested that he probably may take on the Ministry of Finance in the wake of Dr. Clark's going. Well, you know, politicians will do what they have to do, and let's hope that it's in the country's interest. But what cannot be in the country's interest is that you use political expediency to undermine the morality of a particular situation that calls for people's rights to be observed, upheld. That is the concern. So we'll see how that one pans out. So then, let me thank you. We're bringing the program to an end at this time. I'd like to thank you for sharing with me in this forum. We hope that it has been a time of inspiration for you in terms of the facts that we have outlined. And when you're on the site, just go ahead and share what you've heard with others. Just click on the icon share and send it to others as soon as it is up on the site, the channel, so that others can participate. And that's how we keep the thing going. And I'd like to thank you for joining me and wish for you a very good night. Remember, keep hydrated. Drink water. Take the bottle with you if you're, and don't have a hospital episode because you're not having enough liquids in your body. And be careful of COVID. And with those little warnings, again, thanks. And I wish you all the very best. Have a good night. Well, good. Bye-bye.